What's up, nerds from all kingdoms? Today we'll go over some William Wallace reports. These 1v1 tests were done in Ark of Osiris with no city skin and no gear. That way people's accounts don't fluctuate with the gear, and these are the talent trees that we use for William Wallace. And if you don't agree with it, then fight me. And I'll show you guys what we were able to see with William Wallace as a primary and Liu Che as the secondary. Shout out to Agent P for sharing these reports with me. Thanks, Agent P. So right off rip, we have William Wallace with Liu Che against Huo Nevsky, and Huo Nevsky did actually win 27,000 sev wounds to 25,000 in favor of Huo Nevsky, so not by a lot. But just keep in mind that in other reports that I had seen, Wallace and Liu Che did win, so I think it's more of a randomness thing between these two marches, so I think they're pretty close. Moving on, we have them against Liu Che and Alex, which is a common open field pair, and that was 15,000 sev wounds to 26,000 in favor of Wallace and Liu Che. Obviously, it's a big change. Wallace has to be way stronger than Alex, so at some point, Alex will be benched again for the open field once players start to get more and more of Wallace, but in my opinion, Alex is still the best poker, aka cheeseburgering. Next, we put them against Zuji and Henry, and that was 18,000 sev wounds to almost 27,000 in favor of Wallace again. Although I know that archers are supposed to counter infantry, the problem that I see here is that archers negate skill damage a lot, in this case Henry. But with infantry dealing smite damage, all that skill damage negation that archers had kinda becomes useless when dealing with smite. It's a big part of their tankiness that just doesn't work anymore, so I think that's why these reports are like this. After that, again, they put them against Liu Che and Alex, and again, it favored Wallace's march, 15,000 sev wounds to 27,000, almost the same as last time, so maybe this is how it's usually going to be going for them. Then we put them against Zuji and Herman, another pair that's very common on the open field and very good, and that was 19,000 to 25,000. This one kinda shocked me, but just keep in mind that Zuji and Herman deal an absolutely crazy amount of AoE, so there is that to make them look better. Then they put them against Nevsky Joan, which is still arguably the best open field pair for cavalry, and that came out to be 17,000 sev wounds to 30,000 in favor of Wallace, and Nevsky Joan was never really a good dueling pair, but the open field reports speak for themselves, so don't ever let duels be the deciding factor of things. Next, they face them against Boudica and Henry, and I'm not sure what happened here, but it was 7,000 sev wounds to 11,000. I don't know if they stopped the fight early, but the sev wounds are low on each side, but still, it was still in favor of Wallace. Then they tried Huo with Joan, and that came out to be 16,000 sev wounds to 28,000 in favor of Wallace. I'm not sure what to think of this, but it's still looking good for Wallace so far. Then they tried Edward and Tamiris, and that was 22,000 sev wounds to 27,000 in favor of Wallace, and this report really surprised me actually. The archer pair didn't get as wrecked as bad as I thought they would, so that was very interesting. Then they did a small report against Huo Nevsky where these two marches both had 50,000 troops, and it was 5,900 sev wounds to almost 6,300 in favor of Wallace, so again, it was pretty close. Then they tried Herman with Henry, and that turned out to be 17,000 sev wounds to 26,000 in favor of Wallace. Again, I think this is just a skill damage thing. Then we go on to a few garrisons of Gorgo with Wallace, and some of these commanders aren't really optimal commanders for rallying, but just to give an idea, here's what we got. The first one was with Nevsky Joan, and that was almost 20,000 sev wounds to 30,000 in favor of Wallace. Don't ever rally with Nevsky Joan, by the way. Then they tried Zuji with Henry, and that was 23,000 to 25,000 sev wounds in favor of Gorgo and Wallace. And just to compare kinda, they had done this with Gorgo Constantine against Zuji and Henry again, and Gorgo Constantine lost actually, and that was 31,000 sev wounds to 27,000 in favor of Zuji Henry. It's not a for sure thing that Wallace is better than Constantine, but it is definitely interesting since Constantine is a garrison commander. And the final report that we have is Gorgo Wallace in a garrison against Henry primary this time and Zuji secondary, and that came out to be 24,000 sev wounds to almost 27,000 in favor of Gorgo Wallace. So yeah, that was everything that these guys were able to gather in the short window of time that they had. Again, thank you guys for sharing these reports with me. Let me know what y'all think. If you have seen different reports, feel free to share your experiences in the comments. I think Wallace is really strong, but I still don't know how to feel about it. I already have Gorgo with Liu Che, and I might just keep sticking with that for a while, but that's it for the video. Later.